What up, squad? We're back. We made it. Aliens 1986 is what we're talking about today. One of my favorite films from my favorite franchise. Alien 1979 is my favorite film of all time, directed by Sir Ridley Scott. This is the sequel to that. Alien Romulus comes out tomorrow, which I'm so ecstatic to see. So before we do that, I just want to say, let me pull myself up. I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here from the bottom of my heart. I'm a very small channel. As of this recording, I have about 489 subscribers. So anything you guys could do to help me out, I truly appreciate it. Thank you for supporting me. This is what I love to do. I love film. I'm a cinephile. I love talking about film. I love discussing film. It's my favorite art form. And this is one of my favorite movies. So I'm so glad to be here today with you guys talking about it. I want to have a discussion. And if you're not familiar with the format I've been using, basically we go over here to Shot Deck and we'll go through every shot of the film. And I'll tell you guys everything I know about it. I love the making of and behind the scenes of this movie. And this website allows me to do that. I'm not sponsored. I actually pay for the service, but I'm a huge supporter of it. When it's time, I'll bring it up full screen like this and we'll go through it. But before we do that, I want to take a look over on IMDb. So let's run the teaser trailer real quick since it's available right here and see what we're working with.
Somewhere in deepest space, all hell is breaking loose.
80s movie trailer voice guy.
They cut the power.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals.
Looks great.
Get them out of there!
Aliens. This time it's war.
This time it's war.
Aliens. The new movie.
Let's go, guys.
Rated R.
That was great. It looked like a 35 millimeter, maybe VCR, VHS copy of the movie. And it still looks great. I wound up watching the 4K version, which is the newest transfer. So for any of you Alien diehard fans out there watching this video, I'm sure you have opinions on it. I love it. I think it's looked the greatest it's ever looked. I watched it on my 4K TV, and it's the first time I really saw it big in 4K with the new transfer, and I adored it. I thought it was amazing. So let's look at some of the information about the movie first. We got director James Cameron. I mean, what is there to say about James Cameron that hasn't already been said? Visionary, master filmmaker, auteur. Whether you like his movies or not, I know you respect them. He's the most profitable director in history, I believe. I think Avatar made over $2 billion. Avatar Way of Water made over $2 billion. And those were just his last two films. He's the director of Titanic, of course, Aliens, True Lies, the original Terminator, Terminator 2. He's written a ton of movies. This is his writing credits. You know, we see Alita Battle Angel. I really like that movie. So he has writing credits on lots of movies. He's produced a ton of movies. He directed this movie, but it was produced by his then girlfriend, Gail Ann Hurd. And on set, they were just a powerhouse duo. And they filmed this in England. And he famously did not get along with the crew, right? He told a story recently that, and this is actually in the Aliens Expanded documentary, which I purchased. It's a new documentary. It's got interviews with the cast, crew, all new from 2024. And it's 4 hours and 42 minutes, right? I got about 3.5 hours into it so far, and I plan on finishing the rest pretty soon. But he tells a story about the first day he came to work on Aliens. He came to set, was ready to shoot, and everyone was gone. And he said, "Where'd the crew go?" And he saw them all lined up at the tea cart. It was a certain time of day where they all got tea, everything stopped, and the British crew went to get the tea. So the second day he came back, same thing. And he kind of cut in line. They said, "Yeah, go ahead, sir, of course." He asked the tea cart lady how much for all of it. And she said, "Everything on the cart?" He said, "Yeah." And they all thought, "Oh, look, the director's buying us all tea." He paid her, and he said he kicked that fucking thing as hard as he could. And he turned around to the crew, and he said, "Tomorrow, the team leads, get everyone's order, stagger going to get it, bring your tea back here, and let's work." And that was one of their first introductions to get James Cameron. So, notoriously hard to please, I would say. Attention to detail. This was only his second movie, and he was an auteur, meaning this movie is the result of his singular vision. And I guess when he pitched the movie to Fox, the story goes, who knows if it's true or not. The story goes he wrote Alien on the chalkboard, he put an S at the end of it, and he put a dollar sign through the S. He said, "There's your pitch," right? So just a wonderful movie, a wonderful career from James Cameron. I know people have their opinions on the Avatar movies, on James Cameron as a filmmaker in general, but really, I think I've loved almost every one of his movies. And we'll go back to the Aliens page here, and let's take a look at the cast and crew of this movie. So we'll get real in depth when we start going through the shots of the movie. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. You should know IMDb here. If you're interested in opening a new tab and pulling up the Aliens IMDb, they do have over 468, I believe, behind the scenes photos from the movie. And they're just a time capsule of history, just a snapshot in history from 1986 when this was being made. And it just shows a lot of the behind the scenes, shows a lot of Cameron, a lot of the miniatures, the art. This movie is amazing. The props, the set design, the atmosphere, how it was shot. Just everything about this movie screams masterpiece, screams classic. And we'll get right into the movie. Before we do that, let's actually check out the cast, because I want to give them all their props. I want to give them all due credit. So, of course, written and directed by James Cameron. David Giler and Walter Hill were producers on the first movie. They had to do with owning the rights to it, so they contributed to the story. So they have story by credits. Based on characters created by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, who famously got the first movie made and pushed for it. James Cameron wrote the screenplay to this. I hear from people that are in Hollywood that the screenplay to this is one of the best ever written. And when it comes to screenplays, that it went a long way in securing him being able to direct it because it was so good. It was hard to deny. So I should say this before we get into this. I should say I really want to kick back and have a long discussion with you guys about this movie. So I would suggest getting a drink, getting a snack, pack of smokes, smoke a bowl, pour a scotch, herbal tea, whatever it is you do to relax and have a good time. I want you to do that now. Please feel free to kick off your boots, prop up your phone, put the remote down, and let's just relax and really talk about this movie because it's a classic. Alien Romulus comes out tomorrow, and I'm so excited. And God bless you guys all for being here with me. Thank you so much. For my family and friends who are probably watching this, if you're still watching at this point, we're going to get into the real sweaty, nerdy alien stuff. And that's who this video is for you guys, the alien fans like myself. So feel free to log out. Before you do, please give me the likes, comment, even if it's just an emoji. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm at 489 subscribers. I would so appreciate it. So let's go back to the cast list. So we have Sigourney Weaver, Ripley. Carrie Henn plays Newt. Michael Biehn as Corporal Hicks. The great Paul Reiser as Burke, company man. Lance Henriksen as the android Bishop. Bill Paxton as Private Hudson. William Hope plays Lieutenant Gordon. Jeanette Goldstein as Private Vasquez. Al Matthews is Sergeant Apone. Mark Roston, Drake. Rico Ross plays Frost. Colette Hiller is the pilot, Corporal Farrow. Daniel Cash plays Private Spunkmeyer. And Cynthia Dale Scott plays Corporal Diedrich. And in that new Aliens Expanded documentary, all these people come back to give interviews about the movie, except Bill Paxton. R.I.P. to Bill Paxton. What a great legend. He died way too soon, 1955 to 2017. God bless his soul. We miss him. I wish he was still around. I can only imagine the work he'd still be doing. A lot of these people had worked with James Cameron previously. So Michael Biehn played Kyle Reese in Terminator 1, which James Cameron wrote and produced and directed. Lance Henriksen also played a detective in Terminator 1. And Bill Paxton has a small part at the beginning of Terminator 1. I believe Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen are the only two actors to be killed on screen by a Terminator, an Alien, and a Predator. So Bill Paxton got killed at the beginning of Terminator 1. He gets killed in this movie, spoiler alert, and he also gets killed by the Predator in Predator 2. And Lance Henriksen as well. He gets killed in Terminator 1 as the detective in the police station. He gets killed by the alien in this movie. And he gets killed by the Predator in Alien versus Predator. So fun fact. Let's go over here to Rotten Tomatoes and check out the score. And you see right away we have the Alien Romulus banner up top. Experience it at IMAX, only in theaters Friday. I'm going to go see it on Thursday night. And I plan on doing a quicker review of that movie. So look out for that. The Rotten Tomato score, we're sitting at 94% with 250,000 plus ratings. And that's audience score. And the tomato meter, we're looking at 94% with 141 reviews. So I think universally loved, universally appreciated. You could say, if you had to say one negative thing about the movie, maybe some of the effects appear a little dated now when you watch it. But that would really be my only complaint. I think it's a perfect movie other than those issues. It's available to stream right now, Prime Video, Hulu, Max. If you have the Hulu tab within Disney Plus right now, it's there. I purchased it on Apple TV, the new 4K edition. It came with all the supplementals, iTunes extras. There's a great documentary that's called Superior Firepower that comes with every version of the movie. It comes with the DVD, the Blu-ray, the new 4K transfer digital. So I would highly suggest that if you're interested in this movie. So let's head over to Shot Deck and just jump right into the movie. So we have the frames here pulled up full screen on my screen. But I will show you before we start that this tool Shot Deck, it gives you the palette. It'll tell you the camera was an RA3. It'll tell you the lens, Canon K35. It'll give you the film stock. It'll give you the format, 35 millimeter. Aspect ratio, 1.85 spherical. Great information for real cinephiles that really want to know this stuff. Go over to Shot Deck and it'll give you all this information. But what we'll do is we'll pull it up. So the credits in this movie, the way it says Aliens is much different than Ridley Scott's movie. And I think it sets it up that way. That it's a different, faster paced movie. It comes up right away and it's over quick. In Alien 1979, it comes up like one character at a time, really slow and methodical. This one, it just pops right up and gets you into it. We start off right where we left off in Alien with the Narcissus with Ripley inside it, the lifeboat from the Nostromo floating around. And then we get the inside of the ship, and it's looking just like it would if it had been sitting for a while. We got Ripley still in cryo sleep, with Jonesy the cat, of course. And we could see the Narcissus escape shuttle being picked up. Gail Ann Hurd, the James Cameron's wife who produced this movie, when it came down to this scene, he really wanted this extra piece of equipment with the laser to come in like it does in the movie. And in an interview, she said that she told him it's not in the budget. If he wanted it, he was going to have to pay for it himself. Right? And he did. He bought a camera rig. He rented it, paid for it himself. So props to her for sticking up to him, even though that's her boyfriend and he's the director of the movie. She said it's not in the budget. So this was a camera rig where this machine's hooked up to. It scans the inside of the Narcissus. And we come to our first matte painting of the movie. I'm assuming this is not a miniature. This is going to be a matte painting. It looks beautiful. Gateway Station sitting above Earth. The special effects in this movie are, to me, outstanding. I really love that tactile, real feel. This was made in 1986, where there was no computer graphics. So everything just feels so real. Even the stuff that's dated and the paintings like this that aren't even actually 3D, they just have such a real feeling to them. And soon we'll see it out the window. We get the first scene with Ripley and Paul, the great actor Paul Reiser comes in. He plays Burke, the company man from Weyland-Yutani. And he was a comedic actor at this time. He was on a sitcom in the 90s. He did stand-up. He was known as a comedic actor. And you couldn't cast this role more perfect. I wouldn't rather see anyone in this role. I think he plays such a great sleazy yet relatable company man that ultimately winds up fucking them over. And great performance by him. So we get Ripley getting told that it's been 57 years that she's been floating around in space. And we come to find out that this is a dream shot. So look at the window there, the matte painting outside with a little bit of Gateway Station. It looks great. I love it. I think it stands up till this day. So she has a dream where a chest burster comes out of her, and she wakes up still in Gateway Station, and we find out it actually has been 57 years. Just that part of what we saw was a dream. And dreams play a big role in James Cameron movies. If you look back, the first Terminator, just almost every movie that James Cameron makes, it's near the beginning, there'll be a dream scene that has a lot of value. Here we see Ripley getting debriefed by the company, the insurance people, the Interstellar Commerce Commission, and they're basically not believing her about what happened to the Nostromo. And if you don't remember, what happened to the Nostromo was she set it for self-destruct, took the escape shuttle, blasted the alien out of the airlock. And they're kind of doubting that story because they can't find any proof. And I love that behind her, dossiers for her entire old crew that died are playing in the background with all sorts of information about them. And you could actually see that information on, I believe it's the Alien Quadrilogy Blu-ray collection. You could see all that information it says about them there. So now they're telling her that LV-426, which they've renamed to Acheron, has a colony on it where she originally found the eggs. And they're telling her that there were families there. And I think this is a key part of the movie and understanding Ripley is really getting to this point of why would you get her back to that planet? And he throws a bunch of reasons at you. And probably the best one is in the special edition, which they cut out initially, but re-added the scenes later on for, I believe, a CBS TV airing of the movie and then onto Laserdisc. And that special edition is amazing. I know I prefer the special edition. The Alien community and the real hardcore fans prefer the special edition, but I would recommend if you're showing this movie to someone for the first time, go with the theatrical cut. In my experience, go with the theatrical cut. Let them see how it was in cinemas, and then maybe on a rewatch sometime later, hit them with the special edition without them even knowing and see if they even pick up on the extra scenes or the extra context. Because I really do love all the special editions, and that's the way I prefer the movie. So, Van Leeuwen, not very concerned about LV-426. So here is Ripley. She's in a kind of a shitty small apartment. I think they got the fixtures from like a plane. So everything's kind of compact and small. You know, her bathroom, her kitchen, everything's tiny and small. She's not doing so well. They blamed her for the Nostromo's destruction. I think in the last scene at the boardroom, they give her the price of the Nostromo in adjusted dollars. I forget the exact price. It was around like $50 million in adjusted dollars. So they did hold her in account for 57 years of inflation because she was in that stasis in the Narcissus escape pod for 57 years. So they do hold her accountable for the inflation. We got her smoking a cigarette, kind of looking disheveled in a small, kind of dirty apartment building. The outside, when they walk in, is all graffitied and has trash all over it. Great costume design here with the kind of futuristic suits, looking not quite like the 80s or 90s, just kind of futuristic. It's kind of timeless. It still holds up, these suits. They have the little raised up collars because it is supposed to be roughly 100 years in the future. So her and Gorman are telling them that they've lost contact with LV-426. And at first she kind of plays tough, like she don't care and nothing would ever get her back to the planet. And she probably means it at this point. She pours them coffee. You'll notice Paul Reiser, Burke, the character Burke, he's the only one that goes and gets cream and sugar for his coffee. She tells him no way. I'm thinking these screenshots are from the 4K restoration. and it looks so crystal clear. Everybody's eye color, skin tone, all the flesh tones, everything just looks so good and so clear, like it was filmed yesterday. It doesn't it doesn't appear to me like a movie from the 80s, a classic action 80s movie. It's kind of timeless. This and Predator have held up extremely well. Some of the best movies that have held up since the 80s, like action movies that I can remember. So obviously, a running theme is she does have PTSD from her experience in Alien, and she's not really seeking help for it. Burke tells her that he's seen her medical files, right? And she's not holding up well. She's working kind of menial jobs with the loaders and the docking bay. So this is kind of where she realizes that she has to go back. Great acting by Sigourney Weaver. The makeup in this movie is perfect. Everybody's skin looks like it should in that moment. It's a testament to that whole career and what they do in the movie industry. And we get our first shot of the Sulaco, which is an interesting story. Is the Sulaco was designed differently, and James Cameron told the designer that it wouldn't work with his aspect ratio. It was kind of bulbous, kind of a sphere, a lot of references almost to 2001. And James Cameron did a little design by himself. He drew it up because he is an artist. He's a great artist. So he drew up a design for it, and it kind of just resembled the Marines' pulse rifle. He wanted it to look like a rifle in space and just a bigger version of the Colonial Marines assault rifle. And that's what we get. This was probably, from the pictures, it looks like about an 8-foot miniature. And they only really did up one side because every shot in the movie, it's only seen from one side moving as a artistic choice. So they only really designed one side of the model. And the model work in this movie is amazing. This would probably be a good time to mention that these special effects artists and the miniature crew, they were cooking with this movie. It's some of the best models from the 80s that I've seen in a movie. The budget went way up after Alien, and Alien, they did a tremendous job. So we'll point them out as they come along, but just such a great job. And then, speaking of people that worked on this movie, the set designers, the people responsible for all this interior design, if you take a look at this shot, so this is actually 6 cryo chambers, and there's a mirror in the back. And that mirror is making it seem like there's more. You can almost kind of see the distortion there after the 6th pod, but there's a mirror about halfway through the shot, and it's made to look like there's more pods. And that mirror is actually removable because there's a behind the scenes shot where they're filming from where that mirror would be going towards the pods, and we'll see if we could call it out here. But if you look at just behind the pods, it's like a helicopter engine that they stuck in there to make it look like machinery. It's just so well designed. So we get Ripley, and we do focus on her first as opposed to Alien, where they kind of do a fake out of who the main character is, and it opens on John Hurt's character, who winds up getting killed first in the chestburster, most famous scene in movie history. But we do focus in on Ripley here first because we already know she's the main star. We get all the soldiers. Michael Biehn, he decided to do this movie late. The original actor, James Remar, got caught with drugs. And the producer in Aliens Expanded, the newer documentary, Galen Hurd says it was either get him deported or he would have to spend time in jail. So he wound up being deported. They asked Michael Biehn to do it really on quick turnaround notice. And he did it. He had played Kyle Reese in Terminator, of course, for James Cameron. So that was his go-to actor. And I really can't imagine anyone else in this movie pulling off his role. And James Remar from behind is actually in some scenes of the movie. They had filmed some of the movie with the original actor. And some of the scenes we'll point out later actually have him in them from behind. So we get, I believe the actor's name is Al Matthews as Sergeant Apone. And I love the design of his hat. I love all the visual design in this movie. But he actually was in Vietnam, I believe, 2 or 3 times. He was an actual Marine. So on the set, he kind of acted like their sergeant, like when it came to dealing with firearms. Like the pulse rifles in this movie are Thompson submachine guns that they outfitted to look like futuristic guns, and they fired blanks. So he was very, very strict on set about pointing guns at people, having your finger on the trigger, because he was a Vietnam era Marine combat veteran. So as an Army combat veteran, I know that you take that stuff seriously. So he did keep the crew to that standard. And actually, all this whole scene right here was filmed last because he wanted them to go through the whole experience of having filmed the movie together and form a real bond and camaraderie, and then film the scene. So this was actually the last thing that they filmed. And they had all known each other for months. They went through a small boot camp together. They had them doing physical training, shooting, learning to work as a team. So they filmed the scene last, and it really shows. I think right off the bat, you just get that sense from, they don't even have to act. These actors don't have to act because they really are sitting there with their friends, right? And also, as an Army combat veteran myself, I could tell you that this movie is probably one of the best portrayals of a military unit, period. This movie is known as an action movie and a sci-fi movie, but I would also put it in some of the great war films ever created, even though they're not fighting other humans and it's not a war that we've experienced. Just the military aspect and the unit camaraderie, it's almost unsurpassed. It's great. He had the actors read Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein before the movie, and that is one of the greatest depictions of basic training and military units, and it's a statement on fascism. That's a great. I'm sure everyone's seen Starship Troopers, but the book fucks hard. Honestly, it's one of the greatest portrayals of military life, and it's because the author had been in the Navy, I believe, in World War II. So now we get to Ripley hanging out with Lieutenant Gorman and Burke while the Marines eat chow. Lance Henriksen, he said in Aliens Expanded that he practiced this scene so much, and he actually had about 10 different knives that he brought in because he didn't know which one the director wanted to choose, and he was working with all of them. And he got into the airport in England, and the producer, Gail Ann Hurd, was there to pick him up. And he said he actually had to tell her before they searched his bag, like, hey, I got a suitcase full of knives. I don't know if this is going to be a problem. And they worked with someone who knew they were there for the production, and they kind of let it slide. And next up, she's telling Burke, why didn't you tell me there's an android on board? Because, of course, she has, similar to like a sexual assault victim, she has a real problem with the android being right next to her, being as she almost got smothered to death in Alien by an android with a porno mag in her mouth. He just shoved the magazine down her mouth. So it's traumatic for her finding out that there's one sitting right next to her. This shot, it's going to be a mix between practical effects here in the foreground, and I believe that's a matte painting in the background. So that's a painting of the drop ship. But it doesn't look great when you watch it now, but I still find it hard to kind of pick out where the painting starts and where the practical effects end. It's art, man. You give me a couple $1,000,000 and tell me to make a movie, I don't know that I make it any better than what this looks like right now. And then watching it as a kid on VHS and TV copies, you couldn't even tell. It's only now that we have the 4K transfer Blu-rays that you can kind of tell some of the stuff, how they did it. But to me, all it does is remind me of how they filmed it. I get more passionate when I see things like that I could pick out. So we got this classic shot of the group of grunts standing around a missile and some equipment. This is where they first say that they ask Gorman, is this another bug hunt? Because I think in the canon, they've dealt with invasive species before on planets that settlers are on. Never anything like the xenomorph. This is when we first hear it called the xenomorph, actually, by Lieutenant Gorman. And if you notice the artwork on the drop ship there, they give a little bit of a close-up of it later, but I think they probably could have done it even more justice. It's like an eagle with boots flying in, and it says bug stompers. So that is what their unit does, and it is a great piece of Vietnam era callback, World War II fighter plane callback to have the artwork on the nose. It really looks like an Apache or something you'd see today, just more futuristic. I love the design of this movie of all the vehicles. So here we get Bill Paxton in frame with Michael Biehn. They're kind of listening up to see what they're dealing with. Vasquez says, I only need to know one thing, where they are. And if you look in the background, Michael Biehn is actually mouthing her lines. He's saying back there in the background where they are. Like almost like she says this almost every time they go on a mission, or he's used to her hearing it. So that is an interesting feature. If you look in the background, he's kind of mouthing it, you can tell. So this is when they're having a little bit of a good time. You can see Burke smiling, smirking back there. And she kind of brings him in. She says, "Are you done?" And she gets him back into the game and lets him know how dangerous this actually is, because she's dealt with one of these aliens before. I love Burke's outfit, just dealing with the Marines and the working man stuff. He's kind of just wearing that flannel with a vest. It's so in character. They kind of start paying attention to what she's saying. He says they got all the information on discs, so for them to research it. Another beautiful shot of Sulaco in front of what I'm assuming is a matte painting. But that's the miniature Sulaco, and it looks glorious. Apone is such a believable sergeant in this movie, because he really was there and really did do that stuff. So it's perfect casting. This is when we get context. I think they needed the scene, I'm sure, for the end battle. Like, you would think, how does she know how to use that? So it's so cleverly written in that she knows how to use the power loader because she's had a hard time finding work after the company blamed her for the ship, and she's poor and she's 57 years out of her time. So she's learned to use this power loader in the interim, and she says she does. Great piece of equipment that she actually was in, and there was actually a guy in it right behind her that kind of moved it, and she had to act like she was moving it. But there is a guy in there. They hid the support wire in those antennas that are at the top of it. So you'd see there's two antennas at the top of it, and they had wires going up to the ceiling to kind of hold it steady. And I think that's just a genius production design of how to hide those wires and keep it steady. Those two antennae in the back, because until I knew that, I never even looked back there. She's pretty proud of herself. I like that Michael Biehn and the sergeant laugh in that scene also. It goes back to a shot like this where they're both laughing when she does that. And I think it's so cool. I think Michael Biehn played his character so well. He's always smiling. He's always laughing. He's kind of having a good time. He knows when to listen. He knows when to shut up, when to let other people be in charge. He is a natural born leader, and it shows. And there's a reason that him and her are the stars of this movie and the last ones to make it. We get the first shot of the pulse rifle here, which is classic design. I mean, you'll see cosplayers at San Diego Comic-Con with that thing right now. Such a great design. We get the smart guns, which are also cleverly designed. So they said during their little basic training in their boot camp and doing physical training and learning how to use the weapons, James Cameron came and got them all, and he put them in a room, and he said, okay, the next 4 to 6 hours, I want you guys to just sit here and personalize your gear. So all their gear has personalized paintings on them, little memorabilia, and we'll point it out as we go along, but they all put personal things to them and really design their gear, and it gives it that look that they've been in it for a while, and that's their gear. We get the first shot of the dropship now. I can't tell if that's a full-size dropship or the miniature, which is a testament to how amazing this design is. It looks like a full-size dropship. I think that's the full-size version. But just the fact that it's hard to tell is a testament to this movie and the special effects. This vehicle was a airport towing vehicle, so it towed like 747s. You can see the original design online, but basically it was a airport towing vehicle, and they turned it into this amazing armored vehicle, futuristic. It looks like nothing you've ever really seen, even though it is a real vehicle. Just great design. I love the Vietnam era jungle boots. A little extra armor than what our troops would normally carry today. They got leg armor and just great design. Whoever was responsible for the designing of the Colonial Marines. This is one of my favorite gear up scenes in a movie, where they all get geared up and grab their guns, and the sergeant's yelling, "Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up." that whole scene is just, it screams real life military coordinator on the movie, and the Al Phillips playing the sergeant, just really nailing it and really thinking about it. It's one of those things in the movie that the writing is amazing and the screenplay is great, but that type of thing is, it would be hard to do off the page if you were trying to convey that feeling, and they really do get the feeling of a unit gearing up for battle. Lieutenant Gorman's nervous. I'm assuming that the company sent a very inexperienced lieutenant to deal with this problem, because all they want is the alien for the weapons division. Great little scene where he falls asleep, which is a real life combat thing. When you've been up so long, you'll sleep in a helicopter, you'll sleep on a bumpy road, in a tank, anywhere. So it screams grizzled combat veteran. It's not his first day. The production design of the cockpit of the dropship is amazing, very Vietnam era. And then we get the dropship arms unfurling, which I believe was a James Cameron idea, where the designer was having trouble with how to have these rocket pods and wings come out of the dropship, and James Cameron drew it up for him real quick and showed him how he thought it should be. And then we get them flying over a miniature of the colony. And if you go look at the behind the scenes photos, it's like a huge stage just filled with a whole miniature colony. It's huge, like 30, 40, 50 feet across each way. And it was the reactor and the whole colony. So they definitely did film it for this entry, and they show it on the monitor, and it looks great. They splash down, the APC comes out of the dropship, which if you go back and watch that scene, it's kind of flawless. All the special effects they mixed together to have the dropship set down, let out the APC, go roaring off. It's a masterful shot. All this gear is very Vietnam-esque, but futuristic at the same time, and it all looks great. They pour out of the APC. We get that's kind of futuristic. If you see the skin tone for 35 millimeter print that was filmed in 1986, everything looks so crisp and clear in the 4K transfer. This is just 1080p we're looking at here. It could even just be the Blu-ray copy, but it still looks great. We get them moving as a unit into Hadley's Hope, which is the colony. And Hudson runs a bypass. He's kind of the tech guy that we kind of discovered. They call him up to do the tech bypass. We get the smart gun being first on point. They get in here and know something's wrong immediately. For the special edition, they filmed a scene in this complex with families and the running operations of the colony. And then after that, they kind of destroyed it here and made blasts and stuff hanging off the wall and gunfire, small arms fire. It really looks like a lived-in place, but it looks like it's been through hell and there was a battle there. This is kind of, I would say, the first found footage horror. I think it might be the first found footage horror screen time in a movie, because we see a lot of it through the lens of their shoulder cameras, and it's hard to make out some stuff. Everything looks like aliens in the distance, and on the walls you can't really tell what's going on. And at some point he says, get a load of this, and he shows them a hole in the floor, but you can't really tell what it is until they switch to the actual director with a film camera showing you. Still holds up great. The lighting was a huge deal in this movie. James Cameron, behind the scenes, like I said, he's a visionary and he's very specific, and all he cares about is the art and the film and what winds up on the screen. So people's feelings, breaks, everything was secondary to that. And there's a famous story where he fired the director of photography, the original one, because they had a disagreement on lighting. The guy wanted to light all these sets, and he said, no, I just want it to be their lights and what you'd actually see in real dark. And the director of photography just did not agree. He wanted to show more of the set, light it a certain way. And he said, if I can't light it my way, I can't work on the film. And James Cameron said, all right, goodbye. And he got someone that would. So that is an interesting story. And that was during the first few days of principal photography, I believe. I guess now is as good a time as any to jump in and say, thank you, bless your little heart for still being here this long into the video. I'm sure a lot of my family and friends have tuned out at this point, so it's just us alien nerds. And if you haven't hit that like button already, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Show some class, hit the like button. I'm gonna need you to leave a comment too for waiting so long to do it. And definitely hit the subscribe button. It's free. I only have 489 subscribers. It helps immensely. I can't tell you guys how much. So, without further ado, let's jump back into the movie here. Amazing design work. This is where Ripley kind of starts to realize that maybe the Marines don't have everything under control, and maybe it wasn't enough. We see we see Hudson spitting into the hole created by a dead xenomorph. I'm assuming that's acid blood leaked through all the floors. And I love the little detail of Vasquez here. She kind of nudges him, pretending like she's gonna throw him in there, and he says, "Quit screwing around." It's just it's Marines would have levity in these type of situations, so I do appreciate that. Amazing design work. Apone says it looks like whatever happened here, we missed it. It looks like small arms fire. They tried to tag one of Ripley's bad guys with seismic charges, so they had a last stand here and it didn't work. The colonists. This is where they discovered the lab and that they have face huggers from the original ship, which we find out later Burke sent them out to those coordinates to look for the ship. There's a good example of, okay, so this is Hicks, and you can see he has a heart painted over his actual heart with a little lock. And he was the only one who didn't actually personalize and design his own gear because, like I said before, that actor he had taken over for on short notice. So that actor actually was the one that designed and personalized his gear. But he had to take his salary, he had to take his wardrobe, he had to pretty much take his exact deal to make it work. This, I clearly remember the first time I saw this movie, this was the first jump scare. And there's no musical note. It's just simply him looking at the glass and the thing popping forward at him. No fancy cuts, but it truly works. I love that there's like one jump scare in this movie, and it's this one, and it gets almost everyone if they're paying attention. They look amazing. The set looks amazing. Bishop's very interested in the face huggers. At this point, the only android we had seen in these movies wound up being a bad guy and trying to kill Ripley and working for the company, so we're still not sure about him. And the fact that he's showing interest in these things so quick, it's a kind of a red herring to make you think he's bad, I think. Notice the patch on Gorman, USCM, United States Colonial Marines. That's the insignia. Okay, so Frost here has Heath written over the heart, and he said in the Aliens Expanded documentary that he was going to write Heather, and he got like halfway through and he realized he was writing too big, and he wasn't going to fit Heather in, so he put Heath. And the actor said that he had people asking him after the movie, who's this Heath guy that you love so much? He also has a piece of tape there on his arm. I believe it says "When in doubt, nuke 'em." It's like a little piece of tape and writing he put on there. First shot of the motion tracker, the famous motion tracker from this movie. They kind of create one from scrap in the first movie, so you know the text there, since the android knows how to do it. But this is the official first Colonial Marines official version of it. The set behind them looks great. All their outfits look so outstanding. If I had ever had to cosplay like at a Comic-Con, it'd probably be one of these Colonial Marine outfits. So they're picking something up on the motion tracker. They think, and the audience probably at this point seeing it in 86, think it's an alien, but it winds up being the little girl Newt. And I think this was the first scene right here. This shot was the first scene that Michael Biehn filmed as Hicks. So this was his first, and he said he wanted to smile right off the bat in these tense situations to kind of let people know he's lighthearted and he's a good guy. And that was just an artistic choice by him to constantly smile. And he definitely does that here. He gets bit on the hand by Newt, and Ripley follows her into this little air duct where she's been living, where I guess the xenomorphs can't fit in, which is how she survived all this time off these scraps and food and garbage that she finds. The actress Carrie Hann, I don't think she was ever in anything else after this. I think she was in Aliens as a child actor. They said they found her at her school. They were taking A lady was going around taking pictures, which she said these days would probably be considered weird, but it was a Hollywood type lady looking for little girls to act, and they came across her picture. This is where we get that her name is Rebecca from that plaque. She's totally experiencing PTSD just like Ripley was. It's sad, but she's been through the same thing that Ripley's been through, and Ripley was still struggling with it, and she's in the throes of it right now. There you see the medic Dietrich on the left, and she actually, that medic on the left, she has great interviews in the Aliens Expanded documentary. I'll pull it up at the end actually, since I keep shouting it out. I'll pull up Aliens Expanded, and you can see it. It's 4 hours 42 minutes. You have to purchase it, but I highly recommend it. It's great. And how great is this shot deck website where you could pull up these still frames from each shot? I don't see many people on YouTube doing it this way, and that's why I kind of wanted to do it this way, because it gives you so much detail. It lets you pause, take in the scenery, you get through the whole movie, and it reminds me of things constantly. Every shot reminds me of something I know about this movie, so I really love this format. She gives her some hot chocolate, and she says, oh, I created a clean spot. You know, it's kind of her parental instincts. Now, in the special edition, they cut out a scene where they tell her that her daughter died from old age. Amanda Ripley, and the photo that they show her is actually a picture of her mom. So it's her little daughter as an old lady, and she died, no living family. So she was a mother when she left. I think she said she'd promised she'd be back for like her 9th or 10th birthday, and she just never came back. And now it's 57 years later. So James Cameron said in background interviews that he had a really kick-ass independent mom who was like a nurse in the military and really took charge, and that's where a lot of his female characters, he's created some of the greatest female characters in Sarah Connor, and making Ellen Ripley into the character we know today from this movie. So we get a really great shot of the facehugger being dissected by Bishop. And like I said, at this point in the movie, you're not really sure of his intentions because he is an android. He is programmed by the company. The company wants these things. So that's great work there with a couple of dissected fingers. He's given it an autopsy. Bishop said he played this part almost like a little kid. Like when he was 12, he channeled himself at 12. And he had a rough childhood growing up. He said he was the victim of assault and stuff, and he had a rough childhood. And he said what got him through it was always the fact that he knew he would outlive these people that were doing it to him. So that was his ultimate revenge, and he drew on that to play this part. Like he's an android, and he knows he'll outlive all these people, and kind of like a child's mind. Is where they find the colonists on their trackers. And they have to go out on the mission to get the colonists, which was why they were originally here. This looks like, okay, so I think the APC rolling into here, I think it was a mix between a small miniature APC on the left side of the screen and then a matte painting. I believe all this is a matte painting to the right of the screen. But it looks so beautiful. Almost every shot from this movie I would hang up on my wall as artwork. That's how beautiful it is. Credit to the cinematographer, James Cameron, everyone involved. And we get them on their first kind of combat mission. Well, they'd made entry and they breached it, but they were safe pretty quick. Now we kind of know something's coming because it's at the point in the movie where there's going to need to be some action and we're going to have to see the aliens. So I think by this point, the buildup is so great that the audience is expecting something really bad to happen. And we get Ripley, Burke, Lieutenant Gorman, and Newt watching from the APC on the monitors. And interesting fact, they said when they were filming this, there weren't actually monitors in front of them. It appears like they're watching monitors, but it was just the crew and the cameras and everything in front of them. So they were just reacting to nothing. They get into the famous alien hive. This was taken from deleted scenes in Alien. She kind of works her way to the hive and sees people cocooned up, but they got cut out of the original film. So he picked, the director and writer of this picked right back up on it and created an alien hive with the colonists cocooned into the walls. First, they realize they're at a nuclear reactor, so the sergeant has to take the ammo from all of them. So you realize right away what a great movie technique and writing it into the screenplay like this, that they can't go firing their explosive rounds because they'll rupture the nuclear power plant that they're sitting under. So he's got to take all their ammo from them, which leaves them dickless pretty much. Um, Hicks famously whips out his shotgun and says, I keep this handy for close encounters. And we get Vasquez having an extra power source for the two smart guns. We get our first cocoon colonist. She's been impregnated by these face huggers. I love that sculpt of one that's already come off and died, almost like a spider. He's got a shotgun there. Jump scare where she wakes up all of a sudden when they think she's dead, and she has a baby alien inside of her, obviously, and she repeats a deleted scene from the original with the captain that they find him cocooned up there, and he says kill me, and she says the same thing. She says kill me, please. And we get the first shot of the flame unit. So flame units are all right because they won't rupture the nuclear power plant above them, so they're mostly using flame units. We get a deaths of a bunch of the people that we've just started to like and get used to. They list the deaths after this. There's a xenomorph head behind Dietrich. It comes up and grabs her, and I believe Dietrich in this scene is the first death of the movie. That's a xenomorph right behind her. So cleverly hidden into the hive and the biomechanical nature of this whole facility. They shot all this stuff at a abandoned, retired power plant in England. And it's just great setting for this whole part of the movie. Great costume work. That headband is a real headband that soldiers wear around their Kevlar. The lights on their shoulders, the pads. It still looks great now in 2024. We get Scared Gorman realizing what's going on, that people are dropping dead. He's got their vitals in there in the APC, so he's realizing people are dropping dead. She decides to come in and save the day, and this, I think, is the turning point of the Ripley character that we know, where she's done with the PTSD and she's just decided to fight. It's fight or flight, and she decided to fight. I think they could have got out of there right away, but she decides she's taking her fate in her own hands, and she kills her first, she killed one in the first movie, obviously, but she kills her first xenomorph coming in on the APC in this movie, where she runs it over. And they had different alien suits. They had ones that guys go in, then they had ones that they can kind of flop around and hit with stuff, and she runs over one of those, and because the vehicle is so powerful, they played it at double speed, I think, to get the impact, and it's fascinating behind the scenes story of how they filmed each and every scene, especially the action stuff. So we get Vasquez getting tired of the no ammo order and starting to shoot her gun. Drake gets killed. Dietrich gets killed. I'm sorry, Apone and Dietrich, they say later on, still have soft vitals, so they're still alive, probably getting cocooned up by the aliens. But we lose Frost, we lose Wierzbowski, we lose a bunch of the soldiers here, and kind of trim the cast down immensely in that scene. Great shot of the xenomorph coming through the door right before they're about to close it. Great looking shot of one of the practical effects. He sticks the shotgun in its mouth. What does he say? He says, eat this. And he sticks the shotgun in its mouth and blows its head off. And we get the acid blood reminder because it goes everywhere. Filming of the scene, the noxious fumes from the flame and all the special effects actually got to the actors, and they lost their breaths, almost like they were in a gas chamber. They said it was a horrible experience filming it, and they couldn't quite figure out. They had to do it 2 or 3 times, and they couldn't quite figure out how to not get that feeling while they're filming it. So they said the acting, it's not actually acting. They're really scared in that scene because it was so hard to breathe. Ripley's coming and got them. Now it's time to get out of there. So that first action scene is done. Newt gives the all good. What a great little actor. I think the producers said that a lot of the child actors they looked at had done commercials only before, and they were also used to smiling at the end of their commercial lines, because it's just a thing in commercials. Once you say a line, you smile, and that's not what they were looking for, and they couldn't break that habit, so they just found a first-time actor, someone who they could just mold and teach how to act on the spot. Lieutenant Gorman got hit in the head. He's knocked out for a little bit of a good portion of the movie here. Vasquez is pissed for him taking them in there and ordering the no ammo stuff. We get our first kind of glimpse of Hudson. Bill Paxton here was supposed to be going home, and he's freaking out. They were real cocky. He was real cocky on the way down in the drop ship. He gives a whole speech, a whole badass Marine speech about how he's the most badass, and he's the first one to really start losing it and panicking here. Ripley wants to nuke the site from orbit, and it's established that Corporal Hicks is in charge now because they've lost all the rest of their leadership. And the scummy Weyland-Yutani Corporation guy doesn't want them to nuke it, obviously, because he wants these things for the weapon division, even though he's not saying it now. Corporal Hicks is now in charge, so he acts like it, and he becomes a leader kind of right away. They call in the dropship, which should be the end of the movie. And, of course, they had set down for one of them to take a leak outside, and an alien got in, and there's a great sequence. I don't know if the shots are going to come up on it here, where the alien's in the cockpit with them and destroys the two pilots. And they're watching the dropship come in. Look at this miniature work, too. They had several different dropship miniatures, and this one was one that they destroyed for the shot, and it looks great. There we go. We get the alien killing the pilot and the passenger, and there is a shot where they're set down on the planet, even though they're supposed to be orbiting. They're set down on the planet, doors open, taking a leak, and they don't realize that this thing got in. This is when they realize it's not going to stop. I love the design of the planet. Now, in the first movie, they're in spacesuits and they can't actually walk on this planet, and the weather is a lot harsher. But because of this colony has set up the atmospheric processor, it makes the air breathable. Van Leeuwen says in the beginning it takes decades. It's a shake and bake colony, as the company calls it. The air is now at the point where it's breathable, but it's still a harsh environment. Great set here. This little set that they use, I think, just this once for the scene of the planet. Dropships crash. They all realize they're fucked. Crashes into the bay. We get the famous line from Hudson here. Probably the most famous line of the movie is, that's it. Game over, man. Game over. That's the classic line of the movie. We got part of this scene in that teaser trailer that we watched earlier. And Newt's the most calm out of all of them because she's been there. I don't know if it's ever established how long she's actually been there. But she's been there living on her own for quite a while as the last survivor. So she's used to everything going wrong. She's young, impressionable, and she's the only one not panicking. The Marines back there. You can see Hudson's skull that he drew and personalized on his body armor. Great shot of the miniature atmospheric processor. And they're looking onto it like it's a real big building that they're looking at right there. But in reality, it's just a composited or a screen that's projecting the miniature photography. They have to take stock of everything they got from the APC that crashed. And all the weapons they got left. And they got them there on a table. And he pretty much says, that ain't good. They got some weapons, but not much. And we get Newt very calm, putting on the helmet and not bothered at all by any of this. While Hudson's freaking out, and she tells him you gotta calm down. He plays this great. Bill Paxton plays this part. There's a switch in the movie where he just starts playing kind of a man becoming undone from shell shock, and he plays it perfectly. Another great shot of the miniature set from the atmosphere. That's probably the size of like a human, judging by the behind the scenes, if I'm remembering right. That's taller than a human with the antenna and everything. There's definitely shots of people walking around this thing, but it looks great in the movie. It looks like a full-size building. Newt wants to know what the plan is. They're trying to, Ripley's taking charge, and in this situation you got to do something, right? So they pull up schematics, and they're trying to find all possible ways into where they are. Great set design. This room's used a lot. The headquarters of the nuclear reactor, or the atmospheric processor reactor. Great scene here. And this is kind of when we start to meet the Ripley that we see in the next movies, where she's proficient in firearms and a fighter and a alien killer. He teaches her, he has a scene there where he teaches her how to use the gun right away. And he gives her a tracker. Right, and he said, doesn't mean we're engaged or anything. He just gives her a tracker for her wrist that he can locate her, which comes back into play later. Ripley puts a little heater on Newt and puts her down to bed. She got to get some sleep. She'd been living in a garbage dump for months, probably. Bishop wants him to see this flash, and it obviously means a countdown starting where this nuclear reactor is going to go nuclear. I think later on in the movie, he says it's going to be a dust cloud the size of Nebraska, the nuclear explosion from this thing. And right away, I love the acting in Hudson. I'm assuming it was in the screenplay, but he goes, "That's great, man. That's great." He just kind of walks away like he knew something else was going to go wrong, and he just starts kind of freaking out again. And he tells them they have a certain amount of hours till it goes off, so they got to figure out a way. There's one more dropship that you see on the Sulaco, the military vehicle that's in orbit, and there's one more dropship, and they got to figure out how to pilot it down. So they come up with a plan. This scene's great. He said it really was. They cut it open, and he really jumped in there, and they really started welding behind him. And because he is an android, they go to hand him a gun when he gets in, and they're about to seal it up. And he looks at the gun and just hands it back to Ripley from Vasquez. And they said that was not scripted. He just, in character, thinking like the character, he looked at the gun and realized he wouldn't do anything with it and handed it back. I love that little detail. He wants them on patrol while Bishop is on their way to get them the drop ship. They got nothing but time to waste with a lot of Xenos closing in, and they're preparing. He teaches her how to shoot the gun here. That's a classic shot. That's one of my favorite shots from the movie. It might be the most famous shot from the movie, is her learning how to use the gun for the first time. It's got an underbarrel grenade launcher. He definitely says, "You don't want to mess with that." And she says, "No, you started it. Teach me everything." It's a great scene, classic scene, where you kind of get the dynamic between them two, too. Like, it starts to turn into kind of like they like each other on a personal level, not just respecting each other because they're both in a bad situation. And we get the drop ship from the Sulaco getting turned on and powered on, and the android Bishop is able to pilot it down. And you can see there, it has a different insignia than the Bug Stomper one that they took down. The one they had was red, the nose art. This one is blue. And you're still not sure about Bishop at this point. You're waiting for him to turn bad any moment, like from the first movie. So they realize that Burke, the shitty company man, has placed two facehuggers in the room with them to try to get the facehugger to get on them and bring them back with the embryo. He switches off the monitor because he's a piece of shit. No one's noticing that they're in trouble in there. Lots of cigarettes getting smoked during this movie. She makes the brilliant decision to set off the fire alarm. They get the fire alarm in the room. This scene is amazing for what they were able to do with the facehugger props. Just the way they were able to design them and make them move. A lot of thought went into it by James Cameron and the designers, and how to actually film them moving along and jumping. Great stuff. If you watch the Superior Firepower Aliens behind the scenes supplemental, it goes into great detail, where in one shot even it's supposed to leap towards her. I think it's in this shot, and instead they just pulled it backwards and played it in reverse. They were worried about the water going backwards, but James Cameron knew right away it was going to work. It was just a mood. And it's like a quick 2-second shot, but there was a lot that went into that shot. And them figuring out how to actually do it. Kind of see the creepy, it's got like almost fingernails on the end of it. The famous scream by Newt. And then Michael Biehn kind of grabs them like he's the patriarch of the family. He grabs her and Newt, and you can kind of see the little family dynamic getting set up now. And she tells him it was Burke. Burke put two facehuggers, because when they wake up, the door's locked, her gun's gone. There's two facehugger jars opened up on the floor. So she knows exactly what the shitty company guy was trying to do. And it doesn't take much for her to convince them that he did that right away. It's the only possible scenario. They say we should waste them right now. She knows what they're up to. He wants it for the weapons division. I love in these movies that the company Weyland-Yutani is kind of the villain of the movies. The xenomorphs are animals, and they do what they do, and they're no different than the humans. They kill anything that threatens them. They have a queen with the eggs and a whole colony. The bad guy is really the company. That's the through line through these movies, is In the first one, they were using working class, blue collar, oil rig type people to go get the eggs and bring the alien back, crew expendable. And in this one, they use the military the same way. Send the Marines in there. This guy Burke wants it back, and they're all expendable as far as he's concerned. All he cares about is getting the alien back to the company for the weapons division. The xenomorphs cut the power, which shows a level of intelligence, because the power goes out. Motion trackers are going off, and they seal themselves in that room. She welds up the door. They seal themselves in that room, and I think there's a part where they're getting so close that they're inside the room, like inside the door that they just sealed. They can't figure it out, and then finally, they all look up kind of at the same time towards the ceiling, and it's a great scene of him realizing that they're in the ceiling, and he goes up there. And I'm sure if you were watching this in theaters in '86, you would think like this is the point where he's about to die, like he's about to get a hole punched through his head from one of the aliens. But instead, you see him all crawling. And I think in this whole movie, it depicts probably 100 aliens, but there was only, I think, 6 suits with actors. So there's never more than like, I think that's the number. I think there's never more than 6 in a scene together, because they only had 6 like hero suits, like ones that you wear that look proper, that a person's in. Great shootout scene here. Like I said, this is one of my favorite war films, and this is a great battle scene. This is at this point, this is like their second battle with the xenomorphs, and there's less of them, and they have limited ammo. Everything's running against them, and Burke, the shitty company guy, bounces out and locks the door behind them so they can't get out. They cut it open. Newt knows her way around. He's letting them know it's almost done. So things are really getting tense for the audience here, because there's a lot going on. But it's all coalesced, that it had such a slow buildup that it's, you kind of get it and you're not lost at any point, and it's kind of coalescing around what's going to happen at the end. And there are usually 3 acts, but Aliens is famous for having like a secret 4th act. So when we get there, we'll go over that. Great shots of the Xenos coming through, getting blown away. Vasquez and Gorman don't get along in the beginning. She hates him. And at this point, their duty as a soldier takes over, and their personal feelings about each other have nothing to do with it. And they kind of embrace and light a grenade, and they go out as honorable soldiers. They take out some xenomorphs with them, and that's the end of their characters in the whole movie. Newt gets separated from the group, which leads to them eventually finding her underneath the grating. And we're coming up on one of the most famous shots from the movie, which I'm sure will be in this reel. They realize a Xeno's getting close while they're coming through the floor, and this is probably the most lit you'll see a Xeno in the movie, the most of the costume that you'll see, and the fact that it's behind a little girl and rising up out of the water. It's just, it all comes together and coalesces into one of the greatest shots of the movie. They know they got to go because they grab Newt. They cut through the floor. They grabbed her. They're really, what are they going to do? Jump down in the water and try to swim around and find her? They know it took her off. He promises Ripley that she'll be all right. I love the little gag where the elevator's not really closing, and it takes a while to get there, and it's not really closing. So between this shot and the last shot, a Xeno attacks them through the door. They blow its head off, and the acid gets all over. So Hicks gets he gets his face burned, and he got to take his armor off, and his leg burned, and he gets real messed up. That's why he's limping here. And there was a canceled Alien 5 where they were going to come back to Ripley and him as a couple, and in the design work and the artwork, he's got a burnt face, burnt arm, he's got a burnt look to him, just like what he would look like after this incident. Finally get the drop ship. Great shot right there, Bishop in the dropship. I love the framing of it and how you can see everything in the cockpit. So he pilots it into him. This is all miniature work, and I believe it's definitely the surrounding and the actual reactor and all this mechanical stuff is a miniature, and so is the dropship, but I believe it's two different shots mixed together or composited together. One of the dropship doing its thing and one of the background, and it looks great. So they got the dropship with a bunch of ammo and a bunch of guns, so that's not an issue anymore. And I love that shot. I think that's actually an underrated shot of the pulse rifle right there. And it's got a quick gear up scene with Ripley kind of gearing up and getting all the gear from the dropship to go look for Newt. And I do love that scene because it lets you as an audience know. I think she even like physically puts her hair back and ties it back. Like you know it's business now. We got all the ammo, we got all the guns. It's just Ripley going to get Newt. It's up to her. Everything's up to her. I wanted to bust in one more time full screen and let you guys know again, thank you if you're still here so much. This is my dream. This is what I want to do. This is only my second podcast. So this is about the second time I've been on camera, even though I have a lot of videos in my history. If you go back, I was doing a lot of off-grid stuff, a lot of short films, nature photography, shooting, stuff like that. But this is really my passion, is film. And I know the hardest part, they say, is hitting record. So this is the second time with my face and my voice and something to say that I've hit record. So again, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for still being here. And let's jump back into the movie. So we got the beautiful shot of the pulse rifle with all the ammo. Hicks is pretty much down for the count. He's taking painkiller right now, so he's definitely not going to be doing great. He gets a little sleepy and bandaged up here in a minute. And we get, what a great shot. I honestly don't even remember this shot, and I've seen this movie hundreds of times, 100 times at least. I don't even remember this specific shot right here, but it looks beautiful. She takes a flame unit and a pulse rifle and tapes them together, fits all the grenades and all the ammo that she can on her. That is a beautiful shot. I'm betting that behind her there is a screen that's projecting part of the miniature set, and she's in a real elevator, of course, like a real set of an elevator. We get her kicking the flame unit on. The barrel of the pulse rifle there on the left looks incredible. Like you would not want to be looking down the barrel of that. Determined, the Ripley we know and come to love. That is the flame unit. It is the body chassis of an M16. Like that's the handle of an M16 and the heat guard for a grenade launcher. So it is kind of mixed together from different parts of different guns. And she's going to travel back into the tracker that Hicks gave her, she put on Newt. So she knows exactly where she is, and she's ranging in on her. In the special edition, there's a scene here where she comes across Burke, the company man, played by Paul Reiser, and he's cocooned to the wall. And all she does is give him a grenade. She gives him a grenade, flips it open, gives it to him, and keeps going for Newt, because he did try to fuck them and kill them. So, and you hear a small explosion in the distance when she does get to Newt, and that's him setting off his grenade. Newt's cocooned. We get our first shot, I believe, of the egg opening, like the original. And look how disgusting it looks, and I don't know what parts or meat they put on there to make that look like that, but it looks incredible. The opening of the egg is much improved from the first one, I think. The animatronic egg. She screams her little lungs out. Ripley winds up killing a facehugger, but she comes across this room filled with eggs, and great set design. And the queen, there is a full-size queen that we'll see in a second, and there is a puppet queen for stuff where it's moving and walking and ripping off of the cocoon. But it looks amazing because she is in the room physically, if you see the behind-the-scenes photos, with these prop eggs, with the full-size queen. There's the glorious shot where it's one of the things I think I appreciate about this movie the most, that it builds off the first one and gives us things we've never seen. So it's the same kind of structure as the first one. It's playing off it. It's built around the same concepts, but we do get this queen at the end, which is one of the most well-known parts of this movie, is this alien queen, and the effect, the actual large puppet that they built. The behind the scenes is crazy of them getting this thing to work and getting it designed. We get the mouth unfurling from the head. And it's kind of mother against mother here, right? Because Ripley's now kind of the surrogate mom to this kid, and the queen has all her eggs there. and her drones, the big xenomorphs, and it's kind of mother versus mother, and we're with Ripley, but morally there's no right or wrong here. It's mostly the company sending them there that is the villain, the real villains of this. So she threatens the eggs with the flamethrower, just like this queen threatened Newt, kind of, by plastering her to a wall and putting an egg right there. She walks out, and I don't know, besides the fact that it looks cool that she torches these eggs, and maybe in character she has to make sure they're all gone and piss off the queen. But I think this whole facility is going to get vaporized in a nuclear explosion. So I don't know. I guess she had to make sure that these eggs got and nothing survives. So she does wind up flaming them. And the behind the scenes of this is great. She used that flamethrower. And also when she's carrying Newt, when she's carrying the girl, they built a full-size, lightweight, like very malleable, soft version of Newt, of the girl, for her to carry around. And it's not actually Newt. And when you see the behind the scenes photograph, I think I only learned that recently from behind the scenes stuff, and you can't even tell when she's carrying Newt and the back of Newt is facing the camera. It's just the prop, and it looks so real. You can see there in the top left corner an actual xenomorph in the wall. And the queen did call them out. If you've never seen this movie, I can't believe you're watching this video and watching me explain it like this. So I'm going more towards the Alien hardcore fans that have seen it before. And I'm also hoping after Alien Romulus, there'll be a whole generation, maybe if it's a hit and a good movie, of people discovering these movies for the first time. No matter how Romulus turns out, I think there'll always be a period of time where people are discovering these movies, young people. And I'm glad that after you watch the movie, you're here to see this, and I hope it inspires you to go watch the superior firepower behind the scenes stuff from the DVD, Blu-ray, digital copy, and also Aliens Expanded, which I promised I'll pull up at the end so you could see the website to purchase it, because they really are, they are great. Those films alone are as good as the movie to me. I've seen the superior firepower behind the scenes documentary almost as many times as the movie. And it was done in the 90s, I think, or maybe early 2000s. They all came together and did a lot of documentary about it, being a time has passed. But Aliens Expanded is all shot this year, so it's all current interviews and retrospectives and actors that you hadn't really heard from before, and all their stories about making the film. So I highly recommend it, Aliens Expanded. So we get what I'm sure is a miniature set of the elevator shaft. And the queen is kind of smart. She follows Ripley the whole way. And it kind of makes sense. The corridors are just big enough for her to get through. Anything where the queen is walking or moving like this, it's not the puppet they had built in that room. It's the miniature queen. And it looks amazing. As a kid, when I first saw these movies, I never went into any of this or questioned how it was made or what was what. But as an adult, that's part of the rewatchability, is just seeing these special effects in action and calling them and appreciating the art that went into making these things. So we get, again, the kind of gag where the elevator's not closing very quick when you need it to. They get up to the top floor. They think Bishop has taken off without them, which is kind of confirming the audience's suspicions that he's not a good robot and he left her there. And the alien queen figured out how to come right behind her in the elevator, which also makes sense the way it's shot. And we get the miniature dropship coming in. It was getting too unstable, so he had to circle around and come back. Looking great right there. And this movie, it does predate his Avatar movies. I think he drew on this heavily from the Avatar movies. This looks like the Avatar human ships that they use for the military, and the Colonial Marines, and the power loader, the yellow power loader. It's very reminiscent of Avatar, and you could definitely tell this is the director of Avatar, going back and watching it. Great miniature work there, the miniature set, the miniature dropship. It's vaporized, and the dropship flies out. I love the behind-the-scenes footage. There's footage of that nuke going off, and it's pretty much like a swimming pool-sized area covered in cotton, and a light goes off, and that little cloud rises, but it's a big miniature set, and they have the cloud rise, and the way it's filmed, dude, I never questioned it until I saw that video of how they made it, where it's just kind of like a table, kind of the size of a swimming pool with just cotton all over, and a big set for this, just for this explosion, this one shot. She got out of there with Newt. So this is where in Alien 1, I think you're keyed off because there is a fake ending where she escapes in the narcissist escape shuttle, and you think she blew up the Nostromo and she got the alien, and this is the end, and we'll have a nice little ending where everyone's safe. But most of the Alien movies have a fake false ending where it gets to an act 4, where there's usually a 3-act structure. This shot of Bishop getting stabbed by the queen who's hanging onto the ship, when you watch it in retrospect, knowing the queen's hanging onto the ship, they never show that section of the ship where the queen's hanging onto. So it totally makes sense when the queen drops down, and because you don't think the queen's going to still be there. You think maybe an alien got on board this dropship. But the way the queen drops down, the way you never see that side of the ship, you could totally see that it hung on. So this was a challenging shot to get, the alien's barbed tail going through Bishop. What they did was they built like a styrofoam tail that was really squishy and malleable, and they put it in a pipe going down his abdomen. So when they hit it and it popped out, it just came and expanded out of the pipe and went out his chest. It had nowhere else to go. So genius filmmaking. He kept having to gargle yogurt and milk to make all this work, and they realized they were leaving it out a little too long because he was feeling that it was kind of sour and warm and stuff. So it was disgusting the way this was accomplished. But you could see the behind the scenes video of him drinking the yogurt and milk right before they go and start shooting. I love it. This shot in the behind the scenes making of, they built the two halves of Bishop, and then they pulled them on strings that were kind of attached to the alien's hands. And I think one of the special effects guys says he would have done it a little differently these days, but it's so quick that it kind of works. Even though her hands don't really look like they're grabbing him and ripping him, it totally works. I never questioned it. You could see the queen in the little groove in the ship there where it hid on the right side. Landing gear. Terrifying shot. It's got the little arms in front. And if you notice, I don't know if we'll see a shot of it, but if you notice the feet of the queen, they do resemble highly high heels on purpose. Her feet resemble high heels. She has a very sleek and ladylike structure for a gigantic monster, and that was intentional. Ripley distracts the queen because she just killed all its babies. So that's the one it's really after. He's in a hole in the floor built on, and his arms are going through, built onto a fake torso. It looks great. Looks like he's half an android right there. It's crazy. By this point in the film, you're so enthralled that you have forgotten all of life's problems, anything going on in the outside world. It sucks you in that much. You're not looking at your phone. This is a movie making 101 and storytelling 101 by James Cameron. So she pops out in the power loader, which they've set up in that earlier scene that she has to work at the docks for. The design of it is amazing. It looks big. It looks metal. It looks like she's moving it and piloting it. And it's got crazy mechanisms that look real. And like I said, there's two antennae that stick up out the top, and those had strings going to make sure it didn't fall over, because there was some concern about that, and it might have happened a couple times, I think. And there is a guy behind her in the power loader operating it too, moving it. And we get the most famous line of this movie, or almost any movie, I would assume, where she pops out in the power loader, comes right into camera and says, "Get away from her, you bitch." And that's probably one of the greatest lines in movie history, and she delivers it so well. And people who haven't even seen this movie probably know the scene of her walking up in the power loader right to her face and saying, "Get away from her, you bitch." I mean, she's pissed. She's mom status right now. She's protecting her little kid, or surrogate daughter at this point, and she's gonna either get it or die trying. This is that's probably my favorite shot of the movie. I know I've probably said that a couple times at this point. But like this screen right here, I might even use this one for the thumbnail. It's that iconic. And I think a lot of it has to do with the light choice of coming from behind her and silhouetting her like that. And the light on her face. And just the outstretched hands. That's probably my favorite shot. And I think I will use part of that for the thumbnail. This is a great miniature set, I believe. This airlock is a miniature set, and they built a real one. The miniature one was used. We'll get to it in a minute, but when there's the queen and the power loader falling down into it, that's definitely a little miniature set with miniature power loaders and a queen. But they did build part of this full size because you could see Ripley going in and out of it. It's flawless. You can't tell the difference. They set up that airlock too earlier because Apone, when they're getting ready to leave the ship originally, he says, I want this airlock sealed now, and you kind of see how it works. That's an amazing shot. I don't know. See, just 2 seconds ago, I said that was my favorite shot of the film. That's probably the most iconic shot of the film, I should say. The last one. That's a great shot right there. The full-size queen being hung up and fighting this power loader. I mean, the fact that he thought this up in a screenplay, wrote it down, and was able to get it on screen and build all this and get the set, get it filmed, and it's kind of amazing. Now, I believe that's the full-size one, but I could be wrong. That could be a miniature with a miniature Ripley right there, because they did the whole fight with miniatures and filmed whatever they could. So the fact that it's hard to tell that could be either one is impressive. If you can tell, I get excited because this is my favorite like ending to a movie. I love this whole ending battle. And James Cameron did a lot of concept art for this movie where he drew out certain shots and certain scenes so they could see it. And famously, Ridley Scott from Alien got like a $4 million budget, and he drew out the whole movie in storyboards because he's an artist, like a classically trained artist, and he could draw. He drew out storyboards and storyboarded the whole movie and showed the executives what he was going to do with that $4 million. And they doubled the budget to 8 on the original one just because they were able to see it and they were so impressed. And James Cameron, similar, you could see all sorts of art from his movies that he draws out initially and designs and paints. He has a very unique style. He's a great artist. This is same deal. It's so impressive. I don't know if that's the miniatures that they dropped or the real set that they built so she could move around and get those shots of her in there. But I'd highly recommend, like I did at the beginning, go to IMDb and you can pull up behind the scenes photos if you want to do that, or just watch the documentaries by Aliens Expanded again, because it's so fascinating how they did all this. So that's definitely the real shot of her getting out of the suit. And there's a picture of the miniature power loader once they were done filming for the day. All the scenes where it drops and gets blown out of the airlock and falls out of the airlock down into nothing. It was totally ruined. You can see photos of them holding the little power loader miniature, and it's all destroyed at the end of the day. This genius. I haven't mentioned yet the music and the score in this movie, but it's truly outstanding. The music that you don't even notice as an audience member, if you're just a casual film fan watching a movie, you don't notice the music. But the music in this movie, it's so good that you don't notice it, but it would not be the same movie without it. Even right down here at the end when she's coming up out, she blows the queen out into the airlock. We get the scene of it tumbling out. The power loader just dropped and caused most of the damage to it. It dropped like 2 feet and destroyed it. And we get her climbing to the airlock, and the music just builds and builds and builds. See, we get the queen flying out. Great design. Looks great still. Get the miniature Sulaco with the miniature queen. And the music right now is just building until she finally gets out, and it just kind of crescendos when the doors close and she pulls her leg out of the way. And pay attention when you watch the movie to that scene and how they use music in it and the score. As we get, he did save Newt from flying out of the airlock, so we get that he sacrificed himself for her. He grabbed the kid. There's really nothing he could do to be a better android. So we kind of get. At this point, he is kind of a hero. But she didn't really care about him because he's not real. She's glad that she's back with Newt. They embrace. He gives a little childlike smile to see them back together because he just wants to serve. And they're packing into the Sulaco to go down for the long sleep. And in the first one, you get Ripley at the end alone in the escape shuttle, falling off to sleep with her cat. And I love in this one where she obviously left the cat back on Earth. Jonesy is still alive somewhere in this timeline. But you get the shot of them going down, and the very last shot of the movie is the three of them in the escape pod instead of just her alone. And Newt asks if it's all right to dream now, and she says, "Yeah, I think so. All the monsters are gone." And that shot with so Bishop, the remains of Bishop are in one bagged up. Um, her new boyfriend Hicks is in one, Ripley there, and Newt in front of her. And I just love how this movie expanded on everything that the original delivered and more. It took it to new places, and now right at the end of Screen Deck, you'll get some shots from the special edition of the movie. So there's added scenes in the special edition, the sentry gun scene. So you could come over and look at these, and these are all from the special edition. It's pretty cool. There's a deleted scene with these sentry guns that they set up, and they blast Xenos down this hall. It's a great scene. You can look it up on YouTube if you want. Just to watch it on its own is great. You get Newt and her family actually going out there and bringing back the dad with a face hugger. Get the Hadley's Hope Colony, get a little more of the boardroom scene. And this is the scene where she found out she had a child and it's dead now. That screen flickers off, and similar to Avatar, funny enough, again, it goes off and it would look real. And that's actually a lot of the technology they used in this movie, projecting screens that look real onto the back of the actors with the miniature shots that they got and stuff. So, wonderful movie. I can't say enough about it. Shot Deck helps me tremendously. You could type in any movie, film, actor. And I said I would bring up Aliens Expanded, so let's do that. Aliens Expanded. I'll show you the website because what a great documentary. We got new interviews with Sigourney Weaver. They got merch. They got versions of the film. There's the director, James Cameron. I was born to make this movie. We all knew after a week of work that we had something. Lance Henriksen. There he is now. There's Michael Biehn. Without a doubt, Aliens is the best movie that I've ever been a part of. They got different editions, merch. And these are who they have interviews with. There's James Cameron and his girlfriend at the time, Gail Ann Hurd, producer. All the actors that were in the movie. There's Paul Reiser, who plays Burke. There's the little girl, Carrie Henn, plays Newt. Jeanette Goldstein, Mark Roston as Drake. Lieutenant Gorman there. The pilot, Pharaoh. Spunkmeyer, Corporal Dietrich, Private Frost. And they all give great interviews and kind of let you know everything that they remember. All the creature designers, sound designers, model makers. Great interviews. It's 4 hours and 42 minutes worth of great material and behind the scenes interviews, and it's edited really well. So I would highly recommend it. So with that said, guys, I'm going to bring myself up full screen. With that said, guys, thank you so much. I don't know what to say. If you're still here at this point in the video, you must be a family or friend or really like Aliens. I look forward to doing this again in the future. Like I said, this is only my second podcast, second time I've been on camera in this format. So all the support, all the love, I surely appreciate. Make sure to leave a comment, even if it's just an emoji, how you're feeling after this. Let me know if you even made it to the end in the comments. I look forward to doing this again. I'm thinking the next one we're going to do is Predator, 1987, in this format. Just go through the whole movie and give you everything I know about Predator, because I know a similar amount from the original one from 87. I also would like to do Jordan Peele's Nope. I really love that movie. If we're trying to stick to like a cryptid films motif with like cryptid animals, I think that might be the path to go, but we'll see. It's going to evolve from here. I think I'm getting better every time I do this. And I think you can't get to video 100 until you've done the first one, which I did with Alien 1979. Go check out. I had a conversation with my friend Katie about Alien 1979. It's like an hour and a half long. Same kind of format as this, but that was my first podcast. I think I was a little more nervous during that one. I'm getting better as time goes on. Again, thank you guys. God bless you. Be safe. And I can't wait to see Alien Romulus tomorrow. And hopefully I'll be able to kick out something about Alien Romulus for you guys. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. God bless you.